My name is Anouk, and I have been practicing yoga for 23 years and teaching yoga for 10 years, particularly in teacher trainings and in retreats. And in the field of philosophy, yoga philosophy and pranayama meditation, I have been under direct mentorship with my teacher, Anouk Aoun Wendel. So that's a little bit about my background. And I would also like to start by giving my gratitude to USADA and you, the team behind the cameras, for making this possible, for making it possible for me to offer some of the practices, the yogic practices that have been extremely of extreme benefit to many people. So today I'd like to introduce you to a practice of pranayama. And we can translate pranayama simply in a simple way as yogic breathing techniques. So of course there are physiological benefits to these breathing techniques. However, I am not only introducing this practice as a means towards better health, but in the tradition that I come from, we use these practices as a tool towards meditation. And so, due to the nature of this class being filmed online like this, and due to the nature of the current situation that many of us are facing ourselves with these challenges, I've chosen to do a practice with you that pretty much everyone can do. Of course, if you have a particular medical condition, please, I will ask you to exert caution, or if you need to, of course, consult with your physician before you do the practice. So at first, what's quite important when we come to these practices of meditation and breath, or we call them sometimes the seated practices, is that we find a comfortable seat. So as you can see, I'm sitting and the back of my knees and the back of my legs, or the sides of my legs, are touching the ground, so I'm quite comfortable. However, some of you might be sitting more, it might look a little bit more like this, with the knees a bit higher. Maybe the spine is rounding forwards a little bit. So my advice is that, so here I have a cushion, that you have a cushion, and I will just turn sideways so that you can understand. When we use a cushion, we want to sit not in the center of the cushion, but a little bit more forward, so that the pelvis, which we can envision in a way like a ball, it will, when we round like this, the pelvis is tilting back. So that's when we curve and round the spine. In these practices, we want to give priority to the spine. We want to keep a long spine. So sitting towards the front edge of the cushion will make a recline a bit and will allow us to lengthen the spine out of the lower back and sit a little bit more upright. Now, if your knees are still up away from the floor, that's okay. But I suggest that you use a cushion underneath your legs like this. And if it needs to be higher, please do. Also, if this needs to be a little bit higher, this is not that thick of a cushion, you might use, perhaps you have in your house a bolster or a higher cushion to bring it a little bit higher. So the idea is that we support the body. I'll just turn this way one more time. If the body is not supported, after a while, for these meditation practices, the body will probably, most likely, will begin to shake a bit. And therefore, then the mind will never let go of the body. And in meditation, the idea is to eventually let go of the physical body. So please make sure that you sit comfortably and that you use the support under your legs if needed. So I'll just use the seat for myself. So before you close your eyes, I'm going to explain the practice that we will do today. We will do a pranayama practice that is based on a 1:2 ratio. So the in-breath to the out-breath. the 1-to-2 ratio. And this pranayama has different variations, different names. My teacher simply calls it anuloma. So please don't be too hooked on the name of the practice, because even in India and across the different traditions, we find different names for the different practices. So think of it as a 1-to-2 ratio practice. Okay? So we will be breathing in for a count of 3, and we will be breathing out for a count of 6, where pretty much each count equals 1 second. So when we breathe in, it is important to understand that we are not breathing into the belly in most of these pranayama practices, these yogic breathing techniques. Most of them we are not breathing into the belly, so we'll keep below the navel, about 3 fingers below the navel, a slight pulling back. So it's not a tension, just a slight firm pulling back. And we'll be directing the breath rather to the thoracic cavity, to the upper body, and even into the back. So we'll be breathing into, I'm just showing you with my hands so that you can understand where the breath goes. We will be breathing into the rib cage, the sides of the rib cage, into the back, all the way up into the back and into the chest. So the breath rising. And at the top of the inhalation, then we begin the exhalation by softening the shoulders, softening the chest, and softening the rib cage. I'll just show it one more time. Breathing in, into the rib cage, into the sides of the rib cage, into the chest, and into the back. And exhaling, we begin by softening the shoulders, softening the chest, softening the rib cage. And at the end, we draw the belly a little bit back to empty. We then begin the next in-breath. So this is just explaining you so that you understand where the breath goes as we move into the practice. So again, not breathing into the belly. And I will be guiding you through the practice. It should be enough for you to follow closing your eyes. So it would be a good idea, even though it's a video, that you follow me with your eyes closed, and you can listen to my words for you to follow the practice. At the very end of this breathing technique, I will guide you, and we will let go of the breath, and we will simply sit with our eyes closed without opening them, and moving into the meditation from there. All right, so let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything that I wanted to share. We can use this mudra, bringing the index together with the thumb, palms facing down into Jnana mudra, or palms facing up into Chin mudra, whichever way is more comfortable for you. So when we are doing the breathing, ideally we don't take our hands into Dhyana mudra, which is like this, because we're blocking the rib cage from the possibility of that expansion. At the very end, at the end of the practice, you might just naturally, if that calls you, place your hands in Dhyana mudra, if that's some of the mudras that you practice. If you don't know what to do, just keep the eyes closed and keep the hands like this. All right. So let us begin, and make sure that you are seated comfortably. Again, make any final adjustments to your seat before we begin. And then we will now close our eyes. And as we close our eyes, is as a first gesture of what is called pratyahara, meaning the withdrawal of the senses which are constantly externally oriented. We now begin to turn inwards, and we do this at first by closing our eyes. Keeping the spine long, the shoulders are soft and the face is soft. Also, the belly is soft. Make sure that you're not tensing the belly. Let the belly be really relaxed and soft there. Let the breath be natural. And at first we take our full attention to the physical body. Taking a moment to notice the shape of this body and the dimension that it takes in this space, the space where you are. And then bringing our attention to the lower part of our body. It means the back of your legs or the sides of your legs, the sides of your feet. So fully tuning into the sensation of the back of the legs, the lower part of the body as it makes contact with the ground beneath. Sitting bones making contact with the cushion. And experiencing here a sense of heaviness in the lower part of the body. Sense of being grounded and rooted down to the earth. And all throughout the belly is soft. And out of that steady base at the lower part of our bodies, we lengthen the spine without opening the eyes, just simply lengthening the spine. And the chin is parallel to the floor or slightly drawn in. The jaw is soft. And now we take our full attention onto our breath. Without changing anything, let the breath be completely natural and observe the coming and going of the breath as it happens on its own. Breath rising and breath dissolving. Just watching the breath. And anytime the mind wanders off or gets distracted, gently we bring it back to observing the coming and going of the breath. And this breath might be very, very subtle, so it requires the utmost refinement of our awareness to observe the natural coming and going of the breath. All throughout the practice, the belly is soft, the eyes are closed, watching the breath. Practice that we can do on its own, just watching the breath. Anapanasati in Pali, or anapanasmriti in Sanskrit, translated as mindfulness of breath. We begin now, keeping your eyes closed, please. We begin to lengthen the breath. So on your own, and at your own time, begin to make your in-breaths longer and the out-breaths longer. Keeping your eyes closed, just breathing in longer. And breathing out longer. And so gradually you expand the capacity of the breath without forcing, without creating tension. Feel movement in the upper body, so we are not remaining rigid now that we begin to actively breathe. Expanding with the in-breath and softening with the out-breath. So we are going to add a count now, and I'll be guiding you through, and then I'll add a few variations. Keeping the eyes closed now, exhale all the air out, drawing the navel towards the spine to empty. Now breathing in deeply, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing deeply, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing deeply, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing deeply, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling long, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing in, and now continue on your own, keeping your eyes closed. If the count of breathing in for 3 and exhaling for 6 feels too much for you, then take it down. Breathe in to a count of 2. So a long breath in for 2 and a slow long breath out for 4. So again, you would be breathing in for 2 and out for 4. Those of you who have been practicing before, if this comes easily to you, you can then continue at 3 in and exhaling for 6, or you can even begin to breathe in for 4 and exhaling for 8 slow counts. So we must be comfortable at every stage of the practice, continuing with the breath. So there should be no stress, no anxiety. So again, tune into the ratio that is appropriate for you. And then those of you who are familiar with Ujjayi sound, we're combining the practice with Ujjayi. So we're adding a soft sound to the back of the throat. And if you are not familiar with Ujjayi, you are not sure what I'm talking about, please disregard that and continue the practice breathing in and out. Keeping the internal rhythm. And as you continue with this practice, see if at the top of the in-breath you can leave a little gap. It's not a pause, it's not a retention, just a little turnaround space before you begin your out-breath. And at the bottom of the out-breath, before you begin the in-breath, the same. See if you can leave a little gap before you begin your breath in. Coming to the last few rounds of this practice. So remaining alert and awake in your practice for the last few rounds. Keeping the eyes closed, after your next exhalation, take a long breath in without a count, and a long, slow breath out, no count. And one more time, a long breath in, and a slow, slow, relaxing breath out. And keeping the eyes closed. Now we completely let go of the controlling of the breath. Soften the belly completely as we return to a natural breath. The shoulders are soft, the face is soft. And we bring our attention to our floating ribs, or the sides of the lower part of the rib cage. Simply observing the breath as it happens on its own in this part in our bodies. Making sure again the belly remains soft, and any time the mind wanders off, we bring it back to the floating ribs. abiding in this vast, open space of awareness. Let's now open our eyes only halfway. So keep the eyelids heavy and the gaze down towards the ground or space. See if you can stay still for a few seconds. And then fully opening the eyes. Fully opening the eyes. So, a little taste of what these breathing practices can bring into our life, into our days. I would say this daily breathing practice, the stillness that we touch in these practices, and it's not a stillness that as if we were suddenly floating in this cloud of stillness throughout the whole day. At least for most of us, is not like that. But I would say that it allows us to access a moment of deep, I would say, of deep serenity, a moment of serenity and clarity. So, and again, the idea is to, through the practice, every day, for a little moment, for a few seconds, access this. And I really believe, and in my experience, it has, as we practice daily, it has a repercussion into our daily lives. And it's tremendously nourishing. And so, there you go, that's a bit of a taste. Normally, so you can, this particular practice that, again, I'm calling anuloma in this tradition, or this 1-to-2 ratio breath, you can use it either in the morning, at the start of your day, or you can use it at the end of the day to end the day. So both times of the day is fine. And I would say my advice is that when you come into these practices, ideally you have an empty belly, you haven't eaten, and then gone into these breathing practices. And also stay away from a windy condition, so rather in a protected space is better. And also, I would say something that I share often with my students is that these practices require, they require patience, they require a certain discipline. For sure, they are practices of discipline, and definitely a willingness to go there. So there you go, you can give it a try. And if you have any questions, you can always write to the email that we will list in this page, or you can reach me through USADA, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. So let's, I'd like us all to end this session by bringing our hands in anjali mudra, in prayer. And we connect the hands to the heart space at the center of the chest. And then we bow, as we close our eyes, we bow our heads towards our hearts. As a beautiful gesture of gratitude. Gratitude for all that there is. Reminding us in these extremely challenging times that precisely these moments, are bringing an opportunity for us to evolve, an opportunity for change. But it is also a beautiful gesture of honoring, as we honor each other, honoring our efforts, and honoring all sentient beings around us. All sentient beings around us, their lives as important as ours. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.